All right. We should be live. Let me go say that we're live. Sometimes these like threads, I don't know, they're a little bit a little bit much, but Twitter's like such a, you kind of forget it's such a fleeting thing that like you kind of have to do this to get more people there. So, and we're live. Do, 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 do. Boom. Cool. Okay, let's close that down. Let me know you can see me and hear me okay. Nunya first, yes. Nice job. Hello, hello, yes, hello, everyone. I won't try everyone's name here. So I'm bad with names. I'm like Midwest US. It's terrible. Like stereotypical bad names. Okay, cool. Let's get started. Looks like people are showing up again in the comments. Just let me know that you can see me and hear me okay. I'm doing I guess a different resolution this time, just to make sure. Like, I'm trying to leave the comments up a little bit more this time, so that way I can like kind of see what's going on and excuse me, sorry, interact a little bit better. So hopefully everybody can see me and hear me okay. Morning, Jeff. Let me switch my audio output so I can hear the little pings. Let me just make this chat window a bit smaller out of my way. Wash hands. Okay. Cool. All right, let's get started. So here's Blueprint. Nice docs. We have a couple open pull requests today, but what I want to focus on are one or two bugs that were reported. And in fact, one of these was reported on Twitter and not necessarily here. So I want to start with that before I forget about it. And we'll just kind of work our way down. Some of these are open, got open pull requests to fix these. So I'll probably skip over those to start with and try to get some of these other ones working. So for example, this one should be pretty quick. And then the one on Twitter, I don't even know if it's a bug. Somebody reported it. So we'll see. What am I drinking? Oh, it's orange juice out of a mason jar. Again, I'm in the Midwest, so yeah, it's good, and hopefully it'll help. I don't know why I've got a little weird throat thing going on. Okay, so first things first, let's do a git pull, get everything down, because there's been some contributions by the community, which I really appreciate. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to start giving people shout outs on Twitter. I'm starting to see some regular contributors. I really, really appreciate that. Actually, just real quick, one no screwdriver. On a different day, I would have a screwdriver. Just in case people don't know, a screwdriver would be orange juice and vodka. No vodka in there though. Anyway, open source. It's actually I'm super proud to have like a popular or getting popular project and one that's helpful. But in the mix of working on everything else, it actually is a lot of time to spend. So I've been enjoying working on these on Thursdays and doing the live stream like you all are watching. So again, thanks. But it's really helpful is the point to get community contributions during the week that can kind of help keep it fresh. Because I do worry if I only worked on it on Thursdays, honestly, that wouldn't be enough to kind of keep the buzz going and stay on top of these issues. And again, these issues aren't like life or death. I do think Blueprint works pretty well. Most of these are just new ideas or little kind of boundary cases that people are using Blueprint for. So. Anyway, with that said, I did our git pull already, but just wanted to be sure. And again, let's just make sure, I always like to make sure we're in a nice, clean working state. And we are. So let's work on this first issue. Or, well, you know what? I don't even know if this first one's an issue. So what I want to do actually is let's go back to Confident Laravel. I think I already have Blueprint checked out here. Let's just find out. PHP Artisan Blueprint build. Good. So I didn't get an error. It didn't generate. That's kind of interesting though. If we don't have like a draft file, it should probably just not do anything. Oh, I do have a draft file. Okay, so it did do stuff. Cool. All right, so let's open pstorm. Oh, I don't have pstorm on this machine. I need to add that. It's just a command line shorthand to fire up pstorm, but I guess I don't have that extension or add-on plugin, whatever they call it, installed. So what I want to do, I guess I didn't really need PHP Storm, that's kind of heavy. What I want to do is just check and see that this bug is there or not. So let's just do example, and whoops, this is a controllers. So someone claimed that when they did resource, just the shorthand here to generate a resourceful controller, the 7 methods with common statements inside of them, that it added it to the API routes and not the web routes, which was a recent pull request. So there was opportunity for a bug to be here. So let's find out. Okay, it claimed it updated the routes web. So let's find out. Hey, Adrian, what's up? Let's find out. Web.php, and there it is, resource example. So that appears correct. And so there are a couple variations of this. So there's web, the web variation. So let's do artisan blueprint erase just for giggles. Ooh, that's interesting. Connection refused. Connection refused. Why would it try to connect? Oh, the trace command tries to connect. I don't have Docker running in the background. That's a local bug. That should be a little prettier in fairness, but that's okay. So if I do a get status, everything was moved away. Okay, cool. No problem. So let's do build again, and it updates web. So now, actually, because erase isn't super thorough, we're going to get 2 of these. Just a quick point on that. Remember that Blueprint, it's meant for rapid development. So there are going to be some rough edges in Blueprint always, because there's just things that you as a developer are going to do faster. So let me take a quick tangent on this, and it's listed everywhere in the docs, but I still get a few issues that come out and say, oh, this is broken. Notice that when we erase, it actually kind of tells you, hey, the following files can't be erased automatically. Blueprint's not ever going to be smart enough to know exactly which lines you might have changed after you ran build. And so for those reasons, what I encourage is really the erase command is just kind of a convenience. What's more appropriate is to work and run Blueprint in a clean working state. And what I mean by that is a clean working state within Git. So when I do Git status, I don't have a bunch of changes from all day's work right here. If I have no changes, if I'm clean, then that means when I run Blueprint build, if something were wrong or I want to just blow away everything, I can just do something like a git reset -- hard, and we'll see that those changes, particularly what was in the web routes, are now gone. So any changes Blueprint made would be removed in that regard. So it's just Git's always going to be, or version control doesn't have to be Git, could be SVN or whatever else. It's always going to be way better at tracking changes than what Blueprint's ever going to be. So for those reasons, erase is convenient, but it's never going to be 100%. So far so good on this bug. Let's check API, and this is kind of the true test. So let's do build again, and we actually do get an error. Now this is actually wasn't what was reported before, but it's kind of interesting. You know what? I actually think I'm running an older version of Blueprint here. Laravel shift, Laravel. Oh my gosh, I cannot type. Laravel shift Blueprint. What am I running? I'm not running v11. What am I running? There's a way to see it, I think. Composer update. I just want to make sure I'm running the absolute latest version, because all this could have been for naught if I weren't. I think I tagged like v112, so that's probably a bit stale. Let's give this just a sec. I would have expected this to update the routes API, and it didn't necessarily, but of course we got this interesting error. Oh, come on. Again, I don't have Docker running, so I didn't expect to have to fully run everything. Let's do this, and let's try to narrow it down to Laravel shift blueprint, just so it does that. It's not installed. Interesting. Okay, you know what? I'm kind of over this. I don't think that's a bug. They must have been running an older version or something. That's my guess. I kind of hate to poo-poo it that way, but I'm gonna check that on my own later. It seems fine. And again, there were only a couple patch releases since, so clearly they were saying that the resource shorthand put it in API, and that's just doesn't seem to be doing that. So let's move on to a real known bug. Okay, we got Blueprint running here, and let's go out and check one of those bugs. So, let's start with this. Treat foreign keys as integers. Okay, so Ryan mentioned this the other day, actually, to me in the Shifty Coders Slack, and basically this is just, you can turn on class level doc blocks in the model class where like it puts properties, and he was saying that the foreign key should really come across as the integer bit and also get put in the casts. So there's a couple aspects here that he's, not expecting, isn't working the way he would expect. Now this one is actually a separate open issue that I would like to work on next. So let's see if we can solve these two issues right here. So right now, as we saw just a minute ago, all the tests are passing. So this is clearly a kind of a boundary case bug that we just didn't account for before. So let's get a nice fixture going that would represent kind of the expectation of what this issue is, and we'll kind of test drive it from there. So we'll go into, whoops, not stubs. We'll go into tests, fixtures, and let's start with the definitions. And I think somewhere in here I have like a PHP doc block or something. I think I'm opening up, yeah, relationships doc block. So these are all very simple post ID. So this appears to be working. So let's take a look at anywhere where we do PHP doc. Whoops, doc. Just to find the associated test for this. So we have this model generator test. Here we go, perfect. So we have doc block model provider, and these should all generate some kind of output. So what's interesting is relationships. Let's go take a look at that one and see if we can kind of clean it up. So let's do relationships.bp. And this is nice. I think what... Okay. So I wish they would have included the draft file. If you ever open an issue on Blueprint, always include your draft file. It would help me not only immediately make a fixture for what you're talking about, but it would kind of let me know maybe you're doing something that, again, Blueprint, it makes sense, but maybe isn't truly supported, or maybe is just kind of an edge case in the syntax. Because what I'm wondering in this case is, I wonder, this is all working, right, the way I would expect. I wonder if they're like doing something like this, instead of saying ID. But he said that they use the special ID column attribute. The foreign table, okay, so is specified on the foreign table or just as a sane default when there is a foreign key of any sort. So I feel like this would be the way Blueprint kind of encourages you to write it. What I just had a second ago might be something I actually add, but this is kind of the way you would specify the foreign key constraint without toggling it on in the config. So let's see if this breaks something. And it does. Oh, it just breaks the migration, of course, because but it doesn't actually break the doc blocks. And the doc blocks, going back to the models on relationships, have int. Is something wrong with int in the doc block? Is it supposed to be integer? What are the doc block types? Does anybody know? I don't really use those that often, to be honest. Let's see here. PHP doc types. I thought they were, okay, int or integer, so int's totally fine. Personally, I like keeping doc blocks like what you expect in PHP. I appreciate the human readable aspect of integer and boolean, but they're not real types in PHP, so like, and everything else is array, even resource. So it's just, I don't know, I like generating those, but whatever. Little side. I don't get this problem. Foreign keys will be cast to integer type in the model cast attribute. That seems to be covered as well. Okay, just for giggles, let's do this. Foreign. And let's run this. Okay, we definitely get a crap load of errors then. Okay, here we go. String. Okay. I think that's what they're doing, and this is why I want the draft file included. So yeah, that's the problem. Yeah, author ID is no longer in cast, and it's no longer in the doc blocks correctly. So I am going to say that this is a non-issue based on what Blueprint currently supports. Blueprint currently does not support this shorthand yet. I'd like to, but that's actually in another issue. So instead of saying something like ID foreign, you would just be able to say just foreign. So that's actually a new feature, and maybe there was some confusion, or maybe in the docs, I wrote some example with wishful thinking, but that is not currently supported, which is why they are getting this error, which leads me to this next bit here. So let me just go back to those progress ones. This is actually what I want to do next, is this. So yeah, there's already a commented out test. I actually wrote this myself a few days ago, and I think as an aside, here I kind of demonstrated maybe being able to use foreign as a shorthand. So you know what? Let's just jump right into this one. We want to be able to potentially support this. So what I want to do is, let's go check out that factory, what do we say? Commented test. This is in the factory generator test. Okay. Factory generator test. And here's my commented out test. Unconventional, foreign key. All right, cool. So let's make sure this is put back the way we want. All tests should be passing again. Oh, of course, except for the one we just commented out. Okay, that makes sense. All right, let's get organized here. Git checkout -b foreign factories. Foreign factory creation. There we go. Cool. All right, we have this failing test. Let's limit our test scope to just this, so we're not running everything all the time. And there we go, a little faster. Okay, so what I would expect right now is this outputs faker word, okay? But if we go and look at kind of what I expect, the state factory, let me talk this through real quick. Oh, I don't have the state factory. All right, that's fine. Let's add it. Factories. Oh wait, no, it's unconventional, sorry. Unconventional factory key. Okay, so in an ideal world, let's say that you have this unconventional foreign key. Okay, so you're not using like user ID or whatever else we saw. On top of that, you're even going so far as to say that it's on kind of a different table and has a different column. So in this case, country code is a foreign relationship to countries and code. So maybe we do something like, I don't know, we could actually make this even a little crazier by doing something like, you know, CC or something like that, or country code or something very strange. So we can beep that up here in a second, but let's start where we are here. So we know that if we wrote this ourselves by hand, we should see that the proper factory being built for that actually can no longer use the straight closure. or sorry, can no longer just say factory class and return that. It actually has to wrap it in a closure, create the factory, and then access the appropriate column to bring that across. So I want to make sure that this is supported as we improve optimizations or support, I guess, for this foreign reference. So let's get this going. What we want to do, we already have the test, so this is good. Everything else is running, so let's just go ahead and bring up, we got everything going, let's just go ahead and bring up our factory generator full screen. Let's kind of browse through this. So, all of these all these generators are basically the same. They loop over the tree, they populate a stub. So let's just go straight down here. And we take out dummy model, we take out dummy class, and we build the definition. Okay, so let's keep going deeper down the rabbit hole. Okay, so we have a special scenario where we determine the fillable columns. That's great. And then we loop over those. And if your column name is ID, then we skip you. If you're in array of ID or UUID, okay, we determine, okay, so we do some stuff if you're foreign. Is column foreign? Okay, so we basically figure out if it's a foreign key. If it's a foreign key, what do we do? If it's a foreign key, or if foreign key is set and it's not equal to simply foreign, then we can just take the Studley class name of the foreign modifier. That's strange. What does this return? This is where a comment would actually be helpful. All right, so we collect all the modifiers. If the modifiers are an array and, oh, okay, I see. Or the modifier itself is foreign, then we return true, we flatten it. Okay. So I think it'd be helpful to bring up that factory unconventional thing again. Where was that? Unconventional foreign key. Okay, so the way this works is inside of the foreign attributes, there's foreign, and if it has a key, then it's going to give you this portion of that back. Otherwise, it's just going to give you the name foreign back. So I think that's what that is testing for here. And it's basically saying, look, if it's not foreign, then you referenced some kind of other column. Otherwise, take the column name before the last part of ID. And then it's going to generate the factory class for it. So the tricky part now is if we know that you're an ID column, because you've set ID, then we know you have a certain amount of properties, I guess, kind of about you. So we can make some of these assumptions pretty safely. But what doesn't end up working very well and why you kind of end up with that word is you basically just come down here and it goes down to, you know, the faker data column or faker type, and it just defaults basically to word or gives you null back. And when you get null back, you're just a word. So you're considered a string is the point, because the data type in this case is a string. So that's why we're getting word. So what I think would probably be the easiest course of action would actually be to do a special check here to determine, are you a foreign key? I think that's going to be the most universal thing. So right away, the very first check really needs to become, are you a foreign key? Because that's going to generate some custom handling. So let's do that. Let's say if, and then we'll do an else. Oh, I don't know why that didn't. Come on, PHP Storm. Help me out. So let's basically take this check here, and we'll kind of move that up top. And I want to just steal, I want to steal some of this out. Oops, we'll get all this cleaned up. There we go. Let's kind of see how much gets broken when we do this. And we'll just do something simple like dump foreign. I just want to see like how many of these end up breaking. All of them. Oh, because we're not returning a proper faker definition anymore. Or we're not setting a proper faker definition. Yeah, I broke stuff. Okay, so what's wrong here? Else if somehow it put that at the bottom. That's weird. Okay, so we still... Okay, good. We're actually just a few now. So we have the original foreign, the subscriptions, and the country codes, which we still expect are error there. And we have faker word for things that probably shouldn't be faker word anymore because they're just a very simple external ID. So let's actually take a quick look at this model key constraints one. I just want to see what that looks like. Oh, okay. So we have external ID, it's a string, nullable index. Wow, that's interesting. I wonder what it expects there. It's a string. Huh. Here's some chat comments. Let's see what's up. Would be really cool if you could also add @property read model author. Oh, for the PHP doc? Yeah, maybe we'll go back and add that. Try foreign if. Okay. Yeah, let's get back on track here because I think the other ones are going to fall into place. I think the reason that one kind of crapped out is because we no longer have this ID check here anymore. So we'll find out here in just a sec. So whenever I'm in these sections, I like to kind of pseudocode out kind of the plan of attack here. So basically, the first things first is, let's just focus on this really complex foreign key. And so that's basically something like, table.column is passed, right? And then if you don't have that, then we're actually in a really, really simple case. If you don't have that, then maybe just table, ... or model in that case. And then otherwise, we use the, what do you call it? Use column to determine table.column, right? Okay, cool. And then the final kick is if column is equal to ID, then no need for the closure, right? All right, sweet. Okay, so what's interesting is we kind of don't know, we don't always know, yeah, sorry, I'm thinking out loud, or not thinking out loud. We don't always know that table is a is a model. So I think we could safely make that assumption to, in Laravel. Like, I think it would be pretty odd if you had a foreign key reference on something that wasn't a model. I can't think of, I mean, I can think of scenarios where you would, but I feel like that would be such a boundary case that if that were the situation, again, you should just update the factory by hand. Like, it's probably not worth accounting for that. Okay, so let's do that. Let's do that. Okay, let's do this. Let's say table. Whoops. We'll say or well, this is really more like model, but I'll call it, or we'll say reference, and then column. And what I want to do is basically, I don't want to split it. I can't split it. I wonder, is there like a split last? Is there like a string like split? Get last or something? No, I don't know what it is. We'll find it later. So reference is equal to str before last. And then the subject is, what do we, column? name, and it's basically before the last underscore. Well, it's not even that. You could have underscores in your column names. Ooh, this is strange. This is strange. Very difficult. Very difficult. Okay, let's stick to our original path instead of straying. Okay, so we'll say, basically we do want a reference. So we'll just say something like reference null. I'm just going to write the nasty code here. Anytime I get stuck like this, I normally just start writing code. You keep the fingers moving, right, on the keyboard. Keep it rocking. So basically we'll say something like if str pos, whoops, str contains, is sticking with those, foreign, if it contains a period, okay, then we know we can get all the information we need off of the foreign key constraint, right? So we can basically say, yeah, exactly. We can say before last dot. So now what we can do is split this up because we know there's not going to be any other dots in there. So we can basically say reference and then, sorry, reference and then column is basically equal to explode on the dot for foreign, right? Okay, so there's our most complex case. Now we have reference and column, all good. No need to do anything fancy there. Okay, now let's do else if. Else if foreign is not equal to foreign. So if you didn't just say the foreign keyword, then we know that you have we know that you passed a table name in that case. This is kind of a shorthand to say basically that we know that you passed the table name. So we're in this category now. So let's just keep these comments aligned. And so what we can do is basically take the, well, we don't know if you passed in the table or whatever. So all we know is that reference is equal to foreign. We don't know anything about the column just yet. We actually have to get that off of, we would have to get that off your column name. So otherwise, we have to use the column to determine if it's table.column. So what can we do here? We can basically say, we're back to using the column now. And the column is what we do down here. See, this is the hard part. We're basically repeating what's down here at this point. The assumption is that the foreign reference has ID at the end of it. Yeah, it's a little bit weird. Okay, so how could we back this up? Here's what I'm thinking about. Basically, at this point, we need to fill in reference and column if they're not filled in. But if reference is filled in, we know that it's some kind of prefix. It should be some kind of prefix to the column name. It's not a requirement that it is. It's just, it should be. So really at this point, we need a way to determine what the heck the column name is. And that's kind of hard because in this case, the column name would be code, but what if I had something like code ID, right? Like, I don't know to split just on the last. That's really hard. Or worse yet, like I have something, you know, just really ugly, like, you know, CC ID, country code ID, right? There's no splitting there then. Yeah. And then this one's external ID. Yeah, I don't even know. This is ugly. Okay. We're gonna have to make some assumptions here. So I think what the assumptions now are is basically the assumption is that if here's what I'm going to do. The assumption is basically that if column is still somehow null, then your ID. And really what we can do is just default it to ID. I think that's what we're going to do. Yeah. So basically we say if reference is null, then it's really the string before that part. So we can let's just do that. Just give us some sensible defaults here. So by default, basically, yeah, by default, basically, we're just going to assume that whatever foreign key, we're just going to key it off the modem. Again, Blueprint's all model. Blueprint's all about Laravel conventions, so that's where we wanted. Those are just safe defaults in my mind. So let's just do that, and then now at this point we know that we've handled any of the special cases, and so what we need to do is effectively say if you're not. Now basically we have two definition paths. So if column is ID, then normal factory. Otherwise, we would need to make that closure. Otherwise, make closure. Okay, so what we want now is that this becomes reference, and we effectively make this. All right. So if column is equal to ID, then we just make standard old class that we had before, and let's pop that out. Otherwise, we need to make our special definition that's going to be wrapped in a closure. So we do the indent like before, but now we actually have to wrap this in a closure. So we would say something like function, and then that, and then now we have to indent this internal line and do a bunch of crap here, like create and then a dereference of the column. So you would do %s, and that's missing. So let's just do, this is column now. And then we would have to close out the factory. So what do we want those looking like? Unconventional foreign key factories. Yes, the comma is on that line. So let's put this back so we get a best chance of that running correctly. So this would just go here, and we actually need some indents here. So this is kind of gross, but again, let's just get this working. And that should be right. Yeah, that's in the same line as this, and then this is double indented. Or well, it's not double indented. It's what's the indent? I bet the indent's like 8. That's ugly. Okay, this is actually kind of gross, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it again for now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so let's see where we land with this. Let's take out the dump. Okay, we get 2 exceptions. Call to function name on string. Oh, I can't use the name column. So let's actually change this to attribute. How about that? So reference and the attribute, column name needs to say the same, and this becomes attribute. Let's try that. Okay, a little bit better. We only have the one error now, and we actually have, look at this, we actually have create code. That's actually legit. 2 problems I see. 1, we're missing a semicolon, and 2, we don't have our line breaks. So let's do PHP EOL, and a little PHP EOL. Whoops, and it actually helps when you write PHP correctly. Okay, a little bit closer, so function, and we have to return the factory, so that helps also. Return. Boom! Look at that. See, never underestimate the power of just writing crappy code to get it to work. Now with an armed test, we can go back and clean up some stuff and take some opportunities to refactor. But it's working. My test is green. I'm in a green state, and now I can do what they call, the refactor phase or the blue phase. We went red to green. Now we're green. We can go green to green, which is the whole refactor, right? So all the cycles of kind of TDD there. So let's practice the blue cycle here, the blue phase, the refactor phase, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so we're testing right away that we have the foreign key. If foreign key is set, it's not null, then we're going to assume Laravel conventions, right? We're going to basically say, look, whatever the column name is just the conventional thing. And Laravel does this internally too, actually, with things when you use foreign ID or constraints. Laravel 7 anyway does, because I actually just worked on that. So we know that if the foreign reference contains a dot, then you have specified a full foreign key relationship in this format right here. Boom, right? So we got table name or reference, and then the attribute code, the foreign reference. So we could probably call that something like key, might be a little bit, it's like the foreign table and then the key, right? Okay, so we could change that up later, but we know we just explode it and it's all good. Very, very simple, right? So we can take that out. Otherwise, as long as foreign's not simply the keyword foreign, which is the default to just use the name, which we've already kind of accounted for, then we got just maybe the table name, right? Or maybe the model name, whatever it might be. So at this point, we take whatever reference you said, we singularize it, and then we studly case it. So in this case, it's going to take countries, turn it to country, and then make it capital. So that's our model reference. Beautiful, right? Because now we get what we want. And then we basically say, look, if you're not ID, the default conventional Laravel attribute or foreign key reference, or if you are, then just make the standard old inline factory, for that, where it returns its own closure, in this case the factory closure, and is appropriately dereferenced. Otherwise, we need to assume that you have a very special relationship with a very special key or attribute, and we wrap that in its own closure and dereference it there. So again, not necessarily pretty code, but it works exactly the way we intended it, and that's pretty awesome. So let's kind of see if we can break it now. So I feel good about what it looks like. What I want to do is kind of see, ways in which we can break this. So I can think of a way right away, and this is, of course, is going to break because I'm adding some different things, but we saw this just a minute ago. What if I say something like, what if I just said foreign here? This is kind of what we were talking about a minute ago. So let's change this to something like CCID. And really, honestly, like, it would be really awesome if this could work, right? If this could work, this would actually be pretty sweet, in my opinion, because technically speaking, you kind of have all the information you need. You're saying it's a foreign reference, and theoretically, I should be able to break these up on the underscore and get what I want, right? And it should be able to figure out, okay, you're the country model and the country code, and it's all good. Now, as the developer, I know that should be split here, but I don't think that's a safe assumption. The other thing that would be really cool is like maybe something like this, where I could just say the table, and then the assumption would be that this is, the, what do you call it? It's the column. It's the foreign key column. So it would dereference something more like CCID in that case, right? Like, Blueprint would be smart enough to do that. So again, all sorts of boundary cases I can think of here to kind of make this work potentially a little bit better. I don't know what you all think of those, but let's just run this and kind of see it explode. So in this case, it just takes country code and makes a foreign reference, because again, it doesn't know what it is, right? It just takes that and assumes that that's ID. It's going to take the whole thing. So it's not entirely awesome, but again, you didn't really provide Blueprint enough information to kind of get that working correctly. And then same thing here. Again, you said it's a foreign reference to country, but we don't really know what it is. So I do think that we could make this just a little bit better, um, just a little bit better for some of these cases. So let me demonstrate what I mean by that. Here's the case I want to cover. I want to cover this case. Yeah, I want to cover this case, and I think this is maybe potentially a common case for like very unconventional foreign keys. And then I actually want to cover not country code here because I just think that's too hard to know where this gets split. But if you did, again, if you did this, we should have enough information in both of these cases to determine the right course of action. So let me put a legit country code in here, and we'll do kind of the full one. And again, this isn't. Let's see here. Let's just let's do this. How about that? No, I want to do country. Yeah, we have two of these, so that's no good. Let's do this. Let's do like country's code or something like that, or like CC code or C code or something. I don't know. Let's do that. Let's make this a little bit harder. Yeah, okay. And that way some of these might work the way we expect them to. Cool. Okay, so let's do this. Let's clean this up to the way we want so our test is failing in the appropriate way. And what we have here is country code, and we say countries, and I would like it to generate this code still. And then in this case we have foreign countries CCID. This one, I feel like this one should not change. And here's my reasoning. If you specify countries here and you have CCID, what I expect underneath the covers is that you're actually, I expect somewhere Laravel inside of here does like a get key, which determines what the foreign key on the model is. So in those cases, like part of me expects that even though you called it CCID here and you just said countries, the assumption is that this is really implicit that that's ID, right? Or you have bound, you've already bound like in your model what the foreign key ID, like you have an unconventional foreign key on ID on that with the model. And what I mean by that is, let's just jump out to the docs, Laravel models. And I'll kind of show you, I think in here somewhere you can say like get key or primary keys. Yeah, here we go. So what I'm suggesting is that if you say in your code CC ID, the assumption is that that's either the reference in your current table and you have an ID appropriately on the countries table, and therefore I don't need to blueprint, that is, doesn't need to generate anything special, or you've actually made your application, not follow the convention by overriding a custom, primary key, right? You're not following the conventions where you're doing ID anymore. So I don't want this one to change, is the long story short. So what I would want this to do is just still make one for country and throw in that comma. And then what's this last one? This C code, very strange. C code. And this would actually pick up code. And again, this is because you've specified the whole thing. You've said it's this on this other thing, and regardless of primary keys or anything fancy you might have set, the point is you've explicitly told us what it is here, and that's what we're going to follow. Again, this might be unnecessary code, but it's code that we know works, and that's what I care about for Blueprint. Is sure, every now and then it might be a little verbose. Again, this one is another prime example. You could set primary key to be code in your models, and as such, this is unnecessary. This closure is unnecessary, but it's not going to hurt anything, and it's going to generate valid running code, and that's what I care about. And that's why I'm going to go just a little bit extra to get these to work. So I think this is all set up the way we want now. we just need to run this again, and we see that the CCID one is fine, as expected. This C code one works perfect, as expected. The missing one, the missing link is here, and that's what I want to fix. So I want to take this one step farther, and what we can do is actually right in here, we can actually say, what we could do here is we could actually make an effort to determine, okay, is the column name that you pass in prefixed with the reference? And if so, then now we have enough information to determine what the attribute name or the foreign key name should be. So let's change that, and we'll say something like, so we'll say something like column, or not column, we're calling it an attribute. I need to change these names once we're green again. That's going to be the final refactor. We need to call them like table and key, because it's just more contextually correct around the foreign terminology. Okay, so attribute, let's see here. What we want to do is we want to say class, or well, table is equal to this foreign key. We'll say if str, let's just do the naive way, if it starts with foreign, or sorry, if column name, yeah, if column name starts with foreign dot underscore, right, then we basically do str, or well, sorry, attribute equals str after that, right? Cool. Okay, so if you start with the foreign key reference that you passed in, so if you started in this case with countries underscore code, then we're gonna clean that up, right? Otherwise, let's try one more pass at this, and we'll basically say something like, and again, we'll refactor this here in a minute, but we can say something a little bit more like str singular, or actually better yet, we could say snake is really the appropriate way to do that. Foreign. We don't have a test for those, but I know enough working with some of this magic that it actually needs to be snake case. Okay, so we're going to overwrite the attribute in these two cases. Let's see if this passes. It does not. So let's see if we're actually getting in here. So let's dump. Let's dump here, jeer, and there. Okay, so we're definitely not getting in there. So let's back it up just a little bit, and let's make sure I'm on the right track with this. And I want to dump that up here. Okay, countries, good. So when I do snake case, oh, snake case doesn't do singular, that's why. So I want to snake case the str singular version of foreign. It's kind of ugly. I need to make some helper like my own little helper macros that like turn a table name into, you know, I'm sure Laravel has those. I need to like go find that method and make sure I'm using it. There we go, we pass, of course. So I just didn't have the singular bit. So, awesome. We never get in this one. There's no test case for that. I don't know, maybe we should add one just for giggles. Let's do something like countries. I don't know, something weird. Countries ID, foreign. Hello. Foreign countries. There we go. And we actually don't change anything there, which kind of makes sense. I don't think, or we are getting jeer, so that is triggering the path that we just wrote kind of ahead of ourselves. We just don't have it in our factory. So let's do that. This is countries. And that's actually pretty cool. This not only, well, let me finish the let me finish the test. Sorry. Okay, and I think we're gonna stop here because this single task took way longer than I thought. Oh, country's ID. Sorry, not code. Sweet. And Jeer is still there. So let me drop that out, but point out this is actually pretty cool and actually demonstrates a really good bit in our whole chunk of code here. So not only are we getting Jeer or year, but we're basically now, because we actually determined that the attribute was ID, then we're getting saved down here. So this is actually really cool because that's a good path, and I'm glad I wrote the test for that kind of haphazardly. Is that, we got in foreign, we had a foreign key reference, but this has actually demonstrated that the path is pretty sweet because maybe you have an unconventional table name here or unconventional column naming convention, but you're still kind of following like other niceties within the framework or blueprint. So that's a pretty good case right there. So I'm pretty happy with this. Let's clean up our dump, which I did, so we should be all green, good. And now let's clean up these names because it tripped me up like 3 times already. So what I want to do is change reference. I think that's the only places I use it. Yes, let's call this table. That's more expected of what we're getting at here. And even though it's not the true table name, it's close enough to what we're after here. And then same thing with attribute. Let's call this key. I think that's just going to make a little bit more sense. Cool. So in the context of foreign, what's the table and what's the key, right? What's the foreign table, what's the foreign key, right? And that's going to just, I think it just reads just a little better in my mind as we kind of hacked our way through this. And then finally we take the singular Studley version of the table name to determine the class, which we know to be the model. And then now, of course, we're doing things with it. So whew, just want to back up for a second. Let's make sure everything's running, which it is. One final point I want to make about this, and I know I harped on it last week, but you're going to see me answer a lot of issues as you continue to track progress in Blueprint as there gains more popularity. You know how you stumble upon an old Laravel issue where there's been a discussion. So let me say it again. I really hate the amount of code I'm writing for this very, very tiny, tiny feature in Blueprint, which is foreign keys and support for foreign keys. I think there are some people that use these and they're quickly finding the boundary cases, but I just don't think a lot of people use foreign keys, not to this extent. That's not to say that they don't have belongs to relationships, of course. They're just not necessarily putting in the foreign key constraints or writing unconventional foreign keys. So, we just spent an hour, I just spent an hour, coding, you all spent an hour watching, and another, 30, 40 lines of code here to create this one very, very simple, unconventional naming of foreign keys. So I don't know, it doesn't sit well with me. I'm glad I'm adding additional support, but I think it's only moving, Blueprint's adoption by, maybe like 1% is the point. I have no idea. These are just made up numbers, but the point is that I'm just incrementally, fractionally moving support, whereas there's other features and issues that are open out here that I could be, spending a lot more time on that I think have broader effect, like enum support or fixing this test case thing or updating the documentation with more. I think there's just more bang for my buck is the point. So I'm really getting tired of working and spending so much time on all these foreign key. I mean, look at these. There's like 10 issues around foreign keys, and I'm just going to start marking them as community. I don't think I'm going to continue to spend time on them. So bugs of current functionality, absolutely. I will always gladly fix a bug. But some of these things where you can specify restriction types and you can specify super random foreign keys, unconventional beyond what we've just worked on, I don't think I'm going to continue to work on those anymore. It doesn't sit well with me. Not until there's like more that I've done on Blueprint and like that's the only thing left is to tweak foreign keys and then I'll go back to working on them. So let's get this committed and merged. Okay, so let's review this. We got all our code, so I'm not too worried about here. Let's just make sure I don't have any dumps floating around in there, which doesn't look like I do. So yes, let's stage that. Ooh, that is ugly, so no, good thing. This is why I like git add -p. I think earlier when I ran the formatter in PHP Storm and had that incorrect curly brace, I got all that crap. I uncommented the unconventional foreign key, good. And I did a lot of new things in the expected fixtures to really cover all those different bases. Excellent. And there we go. So, cool, this should be good. GST. Okay, so git commit -m. What do we want to call this? This is basically generate proper fake relationship for model factory. GST. All right, cool. And then what's left? It should just be those weird. Yes. And so git reset --hard. Git push origin head, that should go out there. Brian, if so many foreign key issues, maybe it's not so narrow in its interest. I don't think that's true. You'd be very surprised about maybe what's called like the vocal minority. People who have an opinion about something, and are more willing to share it doesn't necessarily mean that there aren't 9 other people, that are using Blueprint just fine, and they're not saying anything because they don't have, an issue, right? So I don't think just because there's 5 issues out there on foreign keys that means that everyone does foreign keys. And again, I might be downplaying how many are, but I disagree that everyone's doing foreign keys because there's 4 issues. I think I might just have an audience that sure uses them more often because they're into like rapid generation. And again, either way, of course, if there's a bug and something documented and it somehow isn't supported, I'm gladly going to fix it. I just don't want to, at least for the time being, continue to be working on this particular feature. So what does this close? This closes. Where was that? Let's just get the progress here. Generate factory for unconventional relationships. I think we're in a good place here. So let me just pop that, and we'll say, let me edit this, and we'll say closes that, and we'll update that comment. And so long as these pass, I will merge this. Okay, let's do one more, regrettably, on foreign keys and call it done. So again, just to emphasize my willingness to continue this out, let's fix this, because this is going to do 2 things. One, this is going to support the shorthand, which I always like shorthands, so I'm cool with that, because Blueprint's all about speed. So what I want to do here is just kind of make a brand new foreign key bit here and kind of get that going. So let's. Why are those yellow still? That's weird. Git checkout master. All right, there we go. So what I want to do is let's do git checkout -b foreign key shorthand. There we go. And what I want to do is make a foreign key shorthand. And we're going to do this in 2 shots. We're going to do the foreign key shorthand support, and then we're going to make sure that the casting and the doc blocks work correctly. If they don't, based on our bit here. So let's just keep this unconventional. I'm going to copy this one, and let's do something like foreign key shorthand. Okay, and what I want here is really just that relationships one, I think would be enough. Where was that? Relationships. Let's just borrow this. And so really what I want to be able to do here is just say foreign. And really foreign becomes a excuse me, foreign becomes a shorthand for ID. And again, all about conventions, all about Laravel, following those blueprints about speed and rapid code development. So anything we can do to help you type less is where I want to be. So again, even though it's related to foreign, and I kind of went on a tirade about using foreign, I do want to finish supporting this again in good faith. So just for giggles, let's do that country code as well, or some kind of like CCID, and just to demonstrate that this continues to work with that or something. Cool. And we'll keep this country's code. So first things first, we have our fixture. What would we want to generate here? Probably the migration would be the easiest thing to start with. So let's go to our migration generator test. And let's make a new test. Does anybody know, excuse me, does anybody know how to collapse in PHP Storm down to the top level? So what I did was I'm on a Mac, so I did Command-Shift-, and it collapses everything. But really I want to collapse just to one level. Anybody know what that is? Is it like Command-Shift-1 or 2 or +2 or I don't know. There's some kind of thing. If you know, let me know, please. Okay, so let's do... I don't think I need to worry about like Laravel 6 and 7. Let's see what this one does. This does two things. I'm just trying to find a good one I can model it off of. Does not duplicate pivot. All these are pivot table ones, which are going to be like pretty serious. So let's do I don't want multiple migrations. Output uses proper data type for ID columns in Laravel 6. I just want a singular. Yeah, this is pretty singular. Let's borrow this one. Okay, so this is pretty standard, so let's do this. Okay, so I'm not going to worry about any version constraints in this one, so let's drop that and let's update the name according to this. So let's say output writes, or let's see, output writes migration for foreign shorthand. Cool. All right, let's expand everything back. Okay, so we're going to get the stub. We're going to pull that out. That's all good. We're going to freeze time with carbon test now. We're going to override this, and this shouldn't be a relationships table. This should be a comments table. So let's get that name right. This is the comments table. And our bit here is going to be foreign key shorthands. And this is definition is going to be the same. I still need to go back and like make those not BP anymore. I need to make them like YAML or something. Okay, so this should fail. Let's copy that and filter it down. So vendor bin PHP unit filter. And of course we get an exception because we don't have that foreign key bit. So let's go set that up in our migrations. And where is that? That should be modeled off relationships. And this will be, what do we call it? Foreign key shorthand is really what that should be called. And this is create comment table. Great. Okay, so we're partially there. We'll get that cleaned up, but I noticed a typo in our migration test. This is foreign key shorthand. There's not multiple shorthands. There's multiple definitions, but not multiple shorthands. Okay, so in this case, we would expect foreign ID, and this is Laravel 7, so we're going to do foreign ID constrained, and on cascade on delete. That's what I would expect there. And then I would expect it for this as well, foreign ID, and then I think we added the country code, right? What do we call it? CCID, and this will be where it gets fancy. That should be countries and code, I think. And the rest should be okay. What's it not like that for? Wait, what do we call this? CCID. I thought you specified the column. References ID on the column. Ooh. That's interesting. That's interesting. Do you specify constrained and references? Maybe you don't write it that way. Maybe you don't do the foreign bit. Columns and name. This will be an interesting test, actually. Maybe this is just foreign. Yeah, that's weird. This is where I think this is going to have to be unsigned big integer. And I don't think you can specify foreign that way. So this would just be unsigned big integer CCID. And then that's it. And then there would be table, columns, CCID, references, references ID, I think. Wait. Gives you the fluent. Cascade on delete is available, which is nice. How does that actually get written? The name. So the column here is CCID, and it references code on, is it on? Countries. Is that the way you write it? See, again, I don't use these enough. Let's go to migrations and just make sure we're getting it right. Foreign key constraints. Okay, so foreign user ID references ID on. So it's just, they would write it a little bit the other way around, which is fine. Let's follow the conventions. And then I think cascade on delete is still a legit thing. So we are definitely not going to generate that appropriately. So let's go from there. So actually, hey, look, we kind of did. But we're actually generating stuff for Laravel 6, so it looks like I just have the wrong bit here. So I think we can fake that out somewhere. No? No, that's actually not working correctly because it doesn't realize that that is a foreign it doesn't realize that that's a foreign key because it's just thinking it's a string, which is to the point of their issue. This actually makes sense. So it thinks they're a string, it's making them all strings, but it's not a string. The default for foreign in a migration should be ID. So we need to go and clean that up. So this is actually a good failure. It looks a little funny, but it's a good failure. I heard some comments, so let me check this out. Sent you a DM on Twitter for code folding shortcuts. Okay, thanks. Yes, references ID on actual table. Yeah, okay, good. We got that figured out. Okay, let's try to get this done in the next few minutes. So let's close that down. And let's go to our migration generator. So, same as before, when we get in populate stub, we're going to build the definition. We're going to get in the definition here. And we actually want to, this is where we would actually want to clean things up. We would actually want to say here to support the data type and treat it just like anything else, right? So if column name is ID and the type is ID, yeah, you would never have foreign there. Or data type is ID or foreign in this case, right? That's what we want to support. So we want to say, is the data type foreign here though? Let's dump this out. Dump data type. This is going to get ugly, but let's find out. So the data type is string. Ooh. You know what's really interesting? This might be able to be fixed. What this means to me is that it's not seeing foreign as a data type. What's really actually cool about that is that means that I might just need to test this in the Lexer, and if I drive it out there, everything else will work correctly. That would be awesome. Because the fact that it's coming across as a string here already at the model migration generation is letting me know that it's not actually lexing it and shorthands need to happen super high up. So, that actually brings me to a quick tangent. Sometimes I'll see PRs come across and they fix, using an analogy, they fix the symptom, not the underlying problem. And I'll merge it, because again it's helpful. But then I'll see some more of these bugs come in, right? And that's kind of actually why there have been several foreign key references or several foreign issues. Going back to the point before, is again it's not really indicative of that everyone's using it. It's more that I kind of stopped baseline support on them, and then some people started adding them in the community. And again, I'm glad to accept PRs, but I didn't, I maybe didn't review it super thoroughly, which is my fault, which led to additional bugs. So I kind of opened the door, but I kind of did it lazily, and then I just got like a flood of people that like barged down the door with all these different issues. And the point I'm making is that I realized that in some of these cases, the issue, especially for these shorthands, is you really need to be doing them up in the Lexer. Any shorthand should be done either in the parser or the Lexer. Now, it's not a YAML shorthand like resource was, so I don't put it in the parser. But if we go and we drive this out at the Lexer stage, my guess is I probably don't even need to update the migration generation. It should just work, minus maybe that fancy country code bit. So let's go write the test elsewhere. Adrian, wasn't the YAML false? Yes, and that actually is the point. The YAML's not false. That might not be the exact, accurate way to say it, but excuse me. It is false in the fact that it doesn't give us a data type, which again points us to the Lexer, and that's where I want to go. So let's go to model Lexer. And model Lexer test, and we're going to leave this other test failing. And again, this is a really great example of TDD. You really try to start at the outside, but sometimes you realize that maybe you're not at the highest level, and we're just going to back it up. We're going to leave that failing test with the expectation that it will either pass once we get ourselves on the right level, or it'll still be a boundary case based on the test we wrote. So again, if you're TDDing and you find that maybe you're too deep or you're not high enough up or whatever, just leave the failing test and keep going, right? And just move up a layer, right? And that's kind of the whole driving aspect. We wrote this test, but realized, you know what? We actually don't want to fix it here. We want to fix it somewhere else. It drove us to where we needed to go, right? And that's one of the really cool things about testing, is it kind of hints every now and then like, oh, you're writing this code in the wrong spot, right? It's harder than it needs to be. Okay, so let's look at the model Lexer test. I'm gonna collapse this and expand it again. It disables the ID column, disables timestamps, so that's all fine. I'm just trying to find somewhere where we have like a shorthand of some kind. It enables more. Okay, it stores relationships. It returns trace models. It enables soft deletes. Let's just put it here with the soft deletes. That feels pretty familiar. All right, let's take a look at this. So it converts foreign key or foreign shorthand to ID. Let's see. Is it converts? I don't know. Maybe treats is a better word. I don't know. Let's not get caught up on it. So really what I want to do here is just kind of steal what we've done over here. In its super simple case, we just have this foreign bit, right? And well, you know what? Let's just take 2 of these because this is going to demonstrate both of those aspects. So let's just borrow that for a sec. And let's get all this cleaned up. So G, we'll do that, and that, and that. There we go. Whoops, that is not the right. There we go, that is the right syntax. Okay, cool. So when we pass this in, I want to make sure that foreign gets converted to ID, but also if foreign has a modifier on it, it'll also get cleaned up. So let's see here. We do get one model back. The model is called model. That's fine. Who cares? Uses timestamps is true. Uses soft deletes is false in this case. We don't care about that. And we have two columns. And we would expect it to be equal to, well, actually, you know what? We expect three columns. So we expect ID. Is ID? What do we pass up here? Oh, soft deletes. Yeah. Okay. So ID is automatically a column, so we definitely expect ID. The data type is, of course, ID. There's no modifiers on it. That's fine. Let's do this for our other two now. So in this case, we would expect a column, whoops, a column of, what do we say, user IDs? Post IDs first. So post ID. And the modifiers for post ID, in this case, should just be foreign, right? Cool. Okay, and then this one is where it gets a little more tricky. So let's clean this up. So this will be ID, ID. And then, what, author ID? Oh, and I messed these names up. Writing the test always takes a second, but as we saw, it's very, very worth it. Okay, so what we're saying here is, of course, the name is the name, but here's the kicker. The data type should be ID, and we still keep the foreign modifier so that, again, everything plays on correctly. We're just kind of shortcutting or shorthanding what the data type is all in one by saying foreign ID. We still need to keep everything else, but we're treating this as a shorthand that you wrote what we know already works, which is ID and foreign, and that goes back to my point, is that if in the lexer or the parser level really high up, we can convert that abstract syntax tree into what we want, then it's really just syntactic sugar, and everything else works below it. Is it Yoast? Hopefully, I think Yoast or Jost. Anyway, hopefully I'm saying it right. You had a comment, I think the test PR model reference, but yeah, exactly. This is exactly what I'm talking about. So there is an open PR that Yoast was helping out with, and you know, I kind of said this exact same thing. It's a shorthand for validating models, being able to pass models to the validate statement instead of having to say every single column on the model. Again, if that happened at the lexer level, then everything would work correctly. The form request would be generated correctly because it automatically knows all the model fields. The test would be generated the way we talked about in line with the other ones, where it would pump all those factories out and set them as part of the request data. You wouldn't have to make any changes, right? So again, you know, I think your changes were correct at the test generation level, and I think someone else had opened a PR to fix them at the form request level. But again, we basically ended up having 3 PRs where we went back and forth a lot and still ended up having bugs because it was an opportunity to probably fix it once at the lexer level. So yeah, so let's keep going here. Let's kind of see where we are here. Oh, we don't want to be filtering that anymore. Let's filter our new test and kind of watch watch it burn. Oh, sorry, one last thing, got sidetracked. The modifiers here should be an array this time of foreign, and it should be a key of user. And that's kind of how the lexer should work for foreign keys. And let's steal this so we can filter. Okay, great. So good. We have a model lexer. We failed asserting that two strings are equal. So ID is not equal to string, and that is our expected error. Actually, if we think back up here, by the time we get somewhere else, it just thinks these foreign things are strings and not IDs. And now we can go make a change. And my guess is this is going to be a super easy change. Whoops. Let's go into our model lexer and just kind of start taking a peek at all this. So again, we get down here. We go through the models, all the cache, and we build the models. So if is set columns ID and it's false, then we disable the primary key, timestamps, yada, yada, yada. All that's good. Relationships, all that's good. Here we go. Now is when we get down to something interesting. So this is the shorthand for that. And now we loop over each of the keys. So everything before this was a special scenario. So what we want to do now is here, we want to say if column name's not ID and you're in the array of ID or UUID, then we want to call you a belongs to. Okay. So based on this, my guess is that we probably want to handle this above the for each loop. We want to go ahead and trigger that data type to be the ID. So let's look a little higher here because I think something else is going on. Okay, so we have the is set for columns. We have timestamps. It doesn't have anything to do with those. We can skip all those. Relationships should be able to be skipped. Okay, here we go. If not is set column and it use, okay, so, oh, build column. That was tricky. Okay, here we go. Look, the default's string. This is exactly where we want to be. Okay, it's gonna pull all that off, and it's gonna say if your ID, then of course make you a data type of ID, and is set parts. So what do we have here? Parts is explode on the token. Oh, sorry, my stomach's growling. What the heck is that? Star skip. Star F. What in the world is that? I've been writing regex for a long time. I've never seen something like that. Some kind of like pointer syntax. All right, hold on. Detour. Let's close those down and see what the heck's going on here. I just want to git blame this for a sec. Where the hell was this added? Annotate, I think they call it, which is nicer. What is this? Support space between quotes in default modifier. That seems Nathan's contributed a lot to the project. I'm reluctant to say that this is broken, but I don't know what the heck that syntax is. Capture anything that's skip, capital skip, anything that's capital F, or a space. Okay, here's what we're going to do. When in doubt, comment it out or remove it. And we're going to run all tests. Okay. Okay, well that's my stuff. So let's do this. Let's do, or well, crap, it's going to be kind of hard to stash things individually. I got to be honest, minus the dump, the only errors that we got were it converts foreign shorthand. It handles modifier attributes. Oh, okay. There actually is something here. Huh. Yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting, maybe this is a shorthand for something really special. I've never seen that before. Does anybody know that? Whoops, star skip, PHP regex. Is this such a thing? I don't know. All right, I'm gonna leave it alone because what do we have? We had 3 failures, 1 errors. Let's run them all again, and if we have the same, then yeah, see, we only have 2, or we only have 1 failure now and then 1 error. So there were 2 errors that popped up when I removed that. So they seem to be serving some kind of purpose, but that is very, very cryptic to me. I might come back to it some other time. So let's shut all these columns down and turn off. How do you turn off annotations? Close annotations. There you go. Simple enough. Okay, so here's where we want to be. If value is ID, so what's value? Values is parts 0. So the assumption is that the very first thing in Blueprint that you type is the data type. So you have to lead with the data type in Blueprint, which I actually didn't know that was a requirement, but that's okay. And then else we say, are you set? Are you set? Are you set in the actual data types? And then otherwise loop over the quote-unquote modifiers and make sure that those are available. Okay, so I think the simplest thing that we could possibly do here is basically just say else if value is equal to foreign, right? Foreign. Let's see where this gets us. And keep my else if. PHP Storm, I gotta tell you, sometimes I feel like it's a bit off. Okay, and then attributes equals parts 1. That's interesting. I don't think we would want to do any of that. I think we want to leave everything else completely alone. So if you say foreign, then we basically just say the data type's ID, and we leave value in parts. There's nothing to do. It's still kind of all quote unquote part of it. So let's go back to our 1 failing test, and I would expect this to get us a little bit farther. And supposedly it now passes, which is kind of surprising to me. Oh, I got you. We take all the tokens and we take the very first part. So we're guaranteed now to kind of get that for you. So yeah, that actually makes sense. I hear a bunch of chats. So what did I break? That's invalid regex. A quantifier can't be before. Could it be that it's syntax for determining like skip null or default? It's a special regex split thing. P-regex split thing. Is it? Adrian? Do you have a link to the docs, if you don't mind? I believe you. I just I would totally learn something about regular expressions in PHP today, which is awesome because I've been using them for like 20 years. So I'd love to learn something. I knew it had some kind of syntax because clearly it broke our tests otherwise. Okay, so now we're down to 3 errors, which makes sense because all of our stuff's starting to fail now, which is good. What is interesting is that constrained doesn't work. It actually doesn't work. I don't think constrained works the way we think it does. Let's go find out actually in Laravel. I actually just made an update to this, so I know exactly where the code is. It'll just be easier to look at my PR. Merged, I think. And it'd probably be better if I put an author in there. Google pregs. Okay, I'll do that. Author Jason McCreary. There we go. I thought constrained took 2 columns, but my type hinting was acting like it didn't. Yeah, it does. Constrained table column. Yeah, it's totally fine. Okay, so this is good. Look at this. So it does table, foreign ID, constrained, cascade on delete, foreign ID, author, constrained users, perfect, cascade on delete, and then for whatever reason, Blueprint was not code completing. I probably just have an old version, no big deal. So let's go back to our migration. Whoops. No. It is the foreign key shorthand in migrations. And this is indeed constrained. And again, this was only completing to be the table name, which in this case is users, but here we can actually do countries and code, and then we can take cascade on delete. So this is highlighting in yellow in PHP Storm, but my guess is it's just because, what do you call it? It's just because Orchestral's test bench is behind. So let me just run this in the background and prove that. And all should be good. So this actually goes down into like Illuminate. So again, if I'm behind on like the Illuminate support stuff that I'm bringing in, PHP Storm is just going to be a bit behind. But we looked and saw that constrained actually takes a table and a column. The column is just defaulted to ID in a foreign ID column definition. So all good in the world. We can write that the way we want with foreign ID. And once I bet you this updates and PHP Storm finishes indexing, this should be a bit cleaner. Yeah, see, it's there. It's just, I don't know. Oh, there we go. PHP Storm caught up. There we go. Okay, good. So that's what we wanted, and now we can run all of our tests again. And minus our nasty dump. Let's find that dump. Where are we? Dump. Whoops. No, I wanted to do that. Dump. Dump data type. That needs to go away. So look at this. Our migration generator, it failed in a different spot now. That's interesting. Why did you fail in a different spot? See, this is why you have tests, people. Model key constraints. Model key constraints. Migration. Okay, so in output rights migration for model tree, we actually ended up with an error here. Why is that? We have create orders table in migration key. So let's take a look at migration key constraints and see kind of what I broke here. Did I change this file? I did not change migration key constraints. Oh, this actually might be exemplified in the bug. This is doing, oh wait, no, that's the wrong spot, sorry. Migrations, there we go. So this is a string, external nullable index. So what is this saying it should be? Let's just, how about this? Let's just copy this and paste this here and see what the heck's going on. UUID went to foreign ID. Shouldn't have done that. A foreign ID is not a UUID. It's a big integer. Where is that? This is model key constraints.bp. What's going on here? Model key constraints, UUID. It should not be getting that picked up. Ooh. Okay, so here's what happened. Parts, I bet you we're getting in there with sub ID in our lexer, and we shouldn't. So let's go back to the model lexer. We probably just need to tone this down a little bit. It's probably not so simple as just saying if the value's foreign, because you could be something else. So let's kind of dump. Let's dump tokens, maybe? Or what do we really get? Definition. Let's dump definition when we're getting in here, because really we should only be getting in here like 4 or 5 times. So this shouldn't be a crazy amount of dumps. There we go. So let's see kind of what's landing in here and how we're breaking. So ID foreign, totally fine. UUID, that's wrong. UUID, that's wrong. ID foreign. It should really only be getting in here for these 4. So the fact that we're getting in here for more leads me to believe that something is a bit off here. So why is parts 0 broken? We loop over each tokens in the definition. Yeah, I see. We don't really want to be doing that. This actually really needs to happen kind of after the fact. I see now that we're kind of looping over this with all tokens, and of course, anytime there's foreign, we're going to, like, this is going to print out a lot of crap, but we're looping over it with every single individual token. That's actually not what we want to do. So I see now that this helped us for our very specific test, but broke us in other places. So this is the wrong spot for this. What really needs to happen is kind of after the fact. We need to have a special case where when we get done, and if the data type is string, then we would actually need to look in there and see, do you have a foreign modifier? And if you do have a foreign modifier and you don't have anything else, and you weren't like explicitly string, then we would know that the data type was never set, right? So let's do that. Let's tweak this a little bit. So here's what we're going to do. We're not going to default it to null. We're going to default it to null. And we're basically going to say if the data type is still null, right? So if is null on data type, then we basically know to set this to string. We'll say data type equals, we don't want to be within the for each. We want to be outside of the for each, sorry. So here we're basically going to say data type if modifiers has foreign. I kind of hate that word. I kind of hate that we're doing it this way, but it's, where were we a minute ago? Was it the migration generator? What did we change? I forgot now. I'm starting to get brain dead after 2 hours of live streaming. Let's say migration generator. No, wait, sorry. I'm trying to remember what we worked on last time. It was the factory generator. The factory generator has this is foreign key. This is what I want. This is what I want. I need this now in the model lexer. And the crappy thing is I don't really need it anywhere else, which means it kind of has to be in line, which is gross. So I have to loop over the modifiers, and I'm going to filter those. Whoops. Has or is foreign key. There we go. And it's not even like first, it's like is exist? No, they don't have it. I guess we could just say contains, right? Contains takes. Does contain take a? I don't really need to like flatten or first it. I just need to kind of know like, does it exist? I always forget if contains takes a callback. If number of values is 1, this uses callback. Yeah, it does. Okay, so we can just drop all that crap now. All right, and now basically we can do this. So data type equals, so if data type is still null, then we kind of don't want to do this all the time, so I can just micro optimize this by doing it in here. And then if it's foreign key, then we know the data type's ID, otherwise it's string. There we go. And now my guess is if we look at the definitions, we should really only be getting in here those 4 times for our brand new test. So let's run this again. Big text. Big text is not a real thing. But all my tests are passing, so I'm good. So we're good. Are we done? Sorry, peeps. I'm losing it. I'm fried. Okay, let's try to finish up where we are. Let's go back to the original expected behavior. Okay. Okay, so foreign key defaults factory data will be factory generated instance of the related model. Okay, so there's 2 more things I need to do here. I need to support this and support this, but what we've really demonstrated so far, and I think there's one more aspect of this we could put in the, in the factory generator, which should be very quick, and I might finish that out, and then we're going to call it done. But this works, so that's good. So let's kind of commit where we are now and get rid of those dumps because everything's passing. So we're going to default building the type to null in this case. And then if we get all the way through everything and we haven't found a data type explicitly set, then we're going to do a check to see if you have used foreign key anywhere. And if you have, then the assumption is that the data type's ID. Otherwise, as before, we default to string. And that's only if it's ever null. We have a test for the migration, which makes total sense. Just a little line break cleanup there. Definition dot column dot nullable. Oh, that's a formatting thing. No big deal there. And then we added the new test, which is good. So the lexer that proves the lexer works. We prove the migration generator works. One last quick thing I want to do. Let's go ahead and add the test fixtures. And I'm just going to do a get whip here. And that way I can reset. Let's just be explicit since I'm kind of fried. So everything else is just a, a white space change. So let's do get reset dash dash hard. And I'm going to real quickly fix the factory. And this is kind of a contrived test, but again, I'm learning that the more and more, community support and kind of like I talked about before, the more and more tests I want to have just to make sure all this kind of works. So what I'm going to do is just add a very quick test here for that very same, foreign key shorthand. And this would be a comment factory. And this is going to be the same as this. Whoops, we'll just write it ourselves. Foreign key shorthand. And we kind of expect this, again, to auto pass. But let's just write it anyways, because again, I just want more and more and more and more test coverage. I've found that it's definitely helping. So similar to unconvention foreign keys, it's going to be very similar. Whoops, very similar to that. I know, PHP Storm. Look at this, check this out. PHP Storm cannot escape or cannot hit enter. Whew, annoying me this morning, PHP Storm, come on. Okay, so this is foreign key constraint shorthand, and then we need to beef up the inside. And with all practical examples here, I would expect this to just kind of auto pass. But let's bring up that foreign key shorthand. Where'd it go? There it is. And let's just bring it up side by side so we can get this right. Okay, so quite simply, we have post ID, and we would simply just expect this to be factory on app post class, and the proper namespace is a slash. And then author ID would be more or less the same thing, but in this case we set it's on user, so that should get cleaned up with that. And again, I expect that to be working. And then we have CCID, and this coincidentally this will not work until the other thing is merged. So let's expect that failure, right? and we'll do vendor bin PHP unit. One exception, and look at that, it's putting it all on one line, which is what the original behavior was. But once I merge the other thing and rebase, this should be good. So what I'm going to do is commit this. Let's do git add -p. So we just added that, and we got the other one commented out, of course. And let's git add tests, and we'll do git commit -- amend, because I want to clean up that commit message, and we'll say support for foreign data type shorthand. And that's just ID. Cool. So let's go ahead and git push origin head just to get that up there. Let me go merge this other one, because I'm not necessarily done overall. Oh, that's Laravel. Where are we? Oh, I got some failures. That's interesting. What did you fail on? States, foreign, country code. Oh, did I write those? Did I write those wrong? I think I did. Unconventional foreign. Unconventional foreign blueprint. What did I write? What did I write these as? You know, actually, this is something in GitHub too that's kind of annoying. You can't get back to, can you? Yeah, okay, you can, good. I think I wrote these as foreign. Yeah, I did. Look at that. These are kind of like interdependent upon each other. Okay. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so here's what I can do. Let's do a little git magic. I wrote these doing the shorthand, and they work for the factory, but they don't actually work. No, I didn't. They're string. They're all strings. So what else is breaking in this? That's strange. All right, git checkout dash, git branch. Where are we? Foreign factory creation. Git checkout that. Vendor bin PHP unit. I do have a failure. What did I break? Countries, string, foreign code. I think we ran into this just a minute ago. This was the same unconventional foreign key. Yeah, we did. Look at this. Migration. And that's Laravel 6 though, right? Yeah, foreign key. Definitions, foreign key, and the migration is timestamps. It's hard to see that whole bit here, which is kind of annoying. Unconventional foreign key in migrations. Here it is. Did I break something? Clearly I broke something. In migrations. Let's go check out my create states. Or wait, no, that is the migration generator test, and this is, whoops, this is, what was that, rights, migration for model, okay, and then it's the data tree provider, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, starts at 0, so it's really this one. Timestamp create states table, unconventional foreign key. What is wrong with you? Unconventional foreign key. And it's really claiming it should be all of, whoops. It's really claiming it should be all of this now. Which is odd. Let's look at that definition one more time. What is the definition? Whoops. Did I change the definition of these? Oh, I did change the definition of unconventional foreign key. Okay, duh. Duh, I added like 19 things. Okay, All right, we're going to fix this, and then I'm done, because clearly the last 10 minutes have been floundering, partly because I'm hungry, and partly because 2 hours of live stream chatting is enough for anybody to need a break. Okay, so let's get this right. Instead of just copying and pasting, let's look at this and actually see what we have here. So we updated these to all be foreign keys now. So name is fine, but now I have a string of countries code, or sorry, countries ID, and I'm going to expect that to be a foreign reference on ID of the other one, right? And that's going to reference countries. No, wait, sorry. That's going to reference ID. This is the local. There we go. References ID on countries. That's good. And cascade on delete. That's fine. Okay, and now we have country code, which is country code, local code on the other, cascade on delete. Great. And now we have two new more ones that we added that are both strings. So we should be able to just kind of copy pasta these, and we've got CCID, and that's going to reference ID on countries. Great. And then we have C code. Whoops. And C code references code on countries. Okay, and now I would expect to pass. Nope, still a little bit off. What did I miss here? This references CCID, not ID. References CCID. Is that expected? Was that expected? I think that flies in the face of what I would expect. I think that kind of flies in the face of what I expect in the factory generator. Factory generator. If we go and look at our factory generator test for this unconventional foreign key, let me just bring this up. Let's bring up the factory for that. Yeah, see, CCID, we said earlier that the assumption should be ID, but the assumption for the migration is not that way. So decisions. Okay, I'm going to end the live stream, but I'm going to leave us with a question, because we have conflicting data here. So originally, based on the way the foreign keys were written, and again, I don't think anything's documented here, and again, we're kind of on a boundary case, but if you're still around, first, thanks for sticking around this 2-hour live stream saga. And then finally, please give me your feedback. Which way do you think it should be? Do you think that the migration is right, and that if you don't specify whatever this is here, and you have an unconventional foreign key column name, should it assume that the reference is the same name in the foreign key, or should it assume ID is on the other one? I guess you could argue it should depend on the data type as well, which again gets, see, this gets so hairy. Yeah, it's a string. The data type's kind of the kicker here. So anyway, the factory we rewrote it for basically assumes it's called ID. But previous to our work earlier today, we assumed that if you don't specify it here, then we're just going to use whatever it is on the other side. Part of me thinks the factory should follow suit with what had previously existed for the foreign key constraints, because that's the way they were written. And going back to my tirade earlier, I really don't want to be changing the spec here. That doesn't mean in 2.0 I wouldn't change it, but anyway, I hear some chat coming across, so let's see what you all said. Let me know what you think. Define key in your data provider to name the sets. Remove string for CCID in YAML default to ID. Okay, so we have one person that voted. I know there's only a few of you left on the live stream. Again, thanks for sticking around. We have one person that voted to default to ID. Okay. All right, I'm going to get some lunch and I'm going to think on it. I'm going to finish this up and get both of these PRs merged as well as that issue finished today. And then I'll tag a release and post it on Twitter. So I appreciate everybody sticking around. Thanks again. I think in the future, we're going to tackle things within an hour and a half at the most, because again, that last half hour was a little bit rough, I think, for everyone. So again, thanks for sticking around. See you all next Thursday. Feel free to use and contribute to a Blueprint or open issues or ideas that you have. So thanks again. Follow me on Twitter for more if you're not already. I'm at Gone Dark. See you next week.